This map illustrates how most of us view travel today. We see bright, connected dots, safe cities linked by a few hours in an airplane. But as the view zooms down into the space between those dots, it reveals an enormous topographical void. Noah Matthews spent 6 years navigating that space on foot. He wasn't taking scenic road trips or staying in national park cabins. He was walking highways with 40 pounds on his back, washing dishes in remote diners just to afford a new pair of boots. Standing on a highway in Nevada at 2 in the morning, the scale becomes physical. There are no houses, no lights, and no people. Just a single line of asphalt stretching into a darkness that goes on for miles in every direction. Living in civilized society conditions us to prioritize social logic. We are trained to be polite, to trust the person behind the wheel, and to find a rational excuse for anything that makes us uncomfortable. But in total isolation, that social training becomes a liability. When you're miles from a nearest town, the instinct to stay polite and make sense of a situation can keep you in the path of a threat your brain hasn't even admitted is real. Outside Flagstaff, the desert is remarkably empty after dark. Stranded at a failing gas station near midnight, Noah finally accepted a ride from an older woman in a white Buick that smelled of lavender and dust. Throughout the ride, the woman's behavior shifted from friendly to unsettling. She stared straight ahead, without checking her mirrors, and her hand felt freezing cold against his skin. Yet Noah stayed in his seat, his brain categorizing her as just a lonely grandmother to avoid the awkwardness of demanding to be let out in the dark. The car rolled to a stop at a red light. She slowly turned her head, and the social narrative Noah had built instantly died. She had no eyes, only smooth, empty black sockets set into a smiling face. He scrambled out of the car and watched the Buick's taillights fade into the distance. Later, he found a 1987 article about a missing student named Barry Collins, the exact name the woman had used for the grandson she claimed Noah reminded her of. Months later in Nevada, Noah accepted a ride from Dennis Warren. Dennis was a man obsessed with the desert's disappearances, his truck cab cluttered with handheld radios and a rifle partially hidden under a blanket in the back. As the truck sped through the dark, Dennis began asking if Noah had ever come back wrong from a trip. Even as the dread rose in his stomach, Noah kept his voice calm and reached for excuses, telling himself Dennis was just another eccentric local with too many ghost stories. The breaking point came when Dennis reached under the seat, pulled out a flashlight, and shined it directly into Noah's face to check him. The logic of the ride ended there. Noah grabbed the handle and threw himself from the moving truck into the gravel. Noah reached a truck stop hours later, but he never reported the encounter. It wasn't until he saw this missing person flyer in a Utah diner that the reality set in. Dennis Warren's truck had been found abandoned near Tonopah shortly after that night. In both encounters, Noah's hesitation was a byproduct of his own search for a normal explanation. Out here, the pressure to remain polite is often the only thing keeping a traveler in the passenger seat when every other sense is telling them to jump. The forests of Olympic National Park feel prehistoric. The fog hangs so low that the trail disappears 20 feet ahead of you, and the silence is so thick you can hear the moisture dripping off the ferns. Deep in these woods, Noah watched a snake the thickness of a car tire slide silently across the trail. Because a snake of that scale shouldn't exist in Washington, his mind tried to rewrite the image as an optical illusion, multiple snakes moving together, or a trick of the fog. That night, he woke to the sound of heavy, rhythmic footsteps and deep breathing outside his tent. Even with the weight of the steps vibrating through the ground, he stayed still, his mind clinging to the idea of a bear, because it was the only biological explanation that fit. The next evening, he saw 2 orange eyes staring at him from the trees on a distant ridge. They were set far too wide for a bear or a mountain lion. When the eyes blinked and then instantly shifted through the dense terrain at a speed nothing that large should be capable of, Noah stopped trying to rationalize and started running. He reached the ranger station at full dark. When he mentioned the orange eyes and their width, the ranger didn't ask for a logical clarification. He simply told Noah he was lucky to be standing there. When visibility drops to nothing, the brain is forced to choose. You can spend your energy trying to fit what you see into a textbook, or you can surrender to the impulse that tells you to get out. North of Missoula, Noah found an isolated campground where a family, Adam Foster, his wife Kelly, and their daughter, invited him to share their fire. Their gear was noticeably dated, vintage lanterns, old-fashioned coolers, but Noah relaxed. A family unit provides a powerful sense of social safety that overrides any minor oddities in their appearance. The peace was broken at 1 a.m. when a park ranger pulled into the loop. He looked at Noah sitting alone by the fire and asked with visible confusion why he was out there by himself. Noah pointed to the Fosters' tents, but when the ranger opened the flaps, they were empty. The sleeping bags were laid out and the daughter's coloring book was still on the table, but the people Noah had been talking to just minutes before were gone. The ranger picked up a leather wallet from the picnic table. Inside was a driver's license with Adam Foster's name and face. The issue date on the card was 1951. The Fosters vanished from this campground in 1952 and were never found. Noah had spent the evening drinking coffee with a family that had been missing for 70 years, and there is no amount of logic that can make that math work. Noah still backpacks, but his approach has changed. He no longer waits for a situation to make sense before he reacts. If he feels the sudden urge to leave a trailhead or a campground, he leaves immediately, without seeking an explanation to justify the move. This is the primal override. It's an ancient evolutionary process where the body detects microscopic threats, a subtle change in a stranger's expression, or a silence in the woods, long before the conscious brain can name them. But we often talk ourselves out of it. When your stomach tightens or the hair on your arms stands up, the conscious brain intervenes with excuses, trying to negotiate with a threat it hasn't even identified yet. In the empty, unmapped spaces of the country, you don't always get the luxury of a logical explanation. When the woods go quiet or a situation feels wrong, your instinct is the only compass that actually matters.